The fall of the Roman Empire in the war with Germania. Chapter 1. The Roman Dream of Expansion. At its height, the Roman Empire stood as a monument to human ambition, a civilization that controlled vast territories stretching from the sands of Egypt to the British Isles, and from the Iberian Peninsula to the banks of the Euphrates. Roman legions were feared and revered across the known world, and the empire's legions brought a harsh but orderly rule wherever they marched. The legions had conquered everything in their path with remarkable efficiency, using their discipline, tactics, and superior technology to crush all resistance. But to the north, there was a land where the Roman forces would meet their greatest challenge: the untamed forests and dense swamps of Germania. The Germanic tribes, a loose collection of warrior peoples, were a fierce and independent force that resisted foreign domination. Unlike the more structured societies of Gaul, Hispania, or Greece, the Germanic tribes were decentralized and organized around clan and tribal loyalties rather than a unified state. The Romans had made initial incursions into Germania but found the terrain and the unyielding nature of the Germanic peoples difficult to overcome. For Rome, controlling Germania was the final frontier, a task that would require not just strength, but the ability to overcome an enemy unlike any they had previously faced. By the reign of Emperor Augustus, Rome had decided to conquer the lands beyond the Rhine River, a decision that would lead to the most catastrophic series of events in the empire's history. Chapter 2. The Early Roman-Germanic Encounters. Rome's early interactions with the Germanic tribes were sporadic. In 55 BCE, Julius Caesar had crossed the Rhine and led a brief campaign into Germania during his conquest of Gaul. Caesar's expeditions were mostly symbolic, designed to show the might of Rome and prevent the Germanic tribes from crossing the river into Gaul. While Caesar's campaigns were successful in intimidating the tribes, they did not lead to a sustained Roman presence in the region. In the decades that followed, the Roman Empire began to fortify its position along the Rhine, building a series of military posts and forts to secure its borders. Under Augustus, Rome began to push deeper into Germania, seeking to expand its territory and bring the Germanic tribes under Roman control. However, the tribes fought back fiercely. The Romans found themselves engaged in small skirmishes and military engagements with various tribes such as the Suebi, Chatti, and Cherusei. But it was not until the reign of Emperor Tiberius that Rome began to fully commit to the conquest of Germania. Tiberius's stepson, Drusus, led a series of campaigns into the region, pushing deep into Germanic territory. The Romans enjoyed some early successes, and for a time, it appeared that the Germanic tribes would be brought to heel. Yet, the Romans' dominance was superficial at best. The dense forests, the guerrilla tactics employed by the tribes, and the fractious nature of the Germanic confederations made it impossible for the Romans to truly conquer the land. Chapter 3. The Rise of Arminius. In 9 CE, the Romans encountered their most formidable enemy yet, Arminius, a young chieftain of the Cherusei tribe. Arminius had been raised in Rome as a hostage, where he had received a Roman education and military training. He had served as an officer in the Roman army, gaining first-hand knowledge of Roman tactics and military formations. But Arminius's loyalty was never to Rome. Upon his return to Germania, he became determined to protect his homeland and unite the disparate Germanic tribes in resistance against Roman imperialism. Using his Roman knowledge, Arminius began to rally the tribes of Germania, uniting them under a common cause. He forged an alliance of Germanic peoples, including the Cherusei, Chatti, and other tribes, with the goal of driving the Romans from their lands. Arminius's understanding of Roman military tactics and his ability to use the forest to the Germans' advantage made him a strategic genius. He quickly gained the trust of the Roman commanders and was even appointed as a guide to General Publius Quinctilius Varus, the Roman governor tasked with securing the region. What the Romans did not know was that Arminius was leading them directly into a trap. Chapter 4. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest. In 9 CE, Varus led 3 legions, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, deep into the heart of Germania. Their mission was to quell the Germanic tribes and secure Roman control over the region. Arminius, who had gained Varus's trust, lured the Roman legions into the Teutoburg forest, a dense and unfamiliar terrain for the Romans. The Romans, accustomed to fighting in open fields where their disciplined formations could be most effective, found themselves at a severe disadvantage in the forest. Arminius and his coalition of Germanic warriors launched a coordinated ambush on the Romans, attacking from all sides with speed and precision. The dense forest, filled with mud and treacherous terrain, made it nearly impossible for the Romans to maintain their ranks. The Germanic warriors, light and nimble, moved with ease through the trees, striking quickly and retreating into the shadows. The battle that ensued was brutal. The Romans, surrounded and unable to regroup, fought desperately but were slowly overwhelmed by the sheer ferocity of the Germanic warriors. For 3 days, the Romans were harried from all sides, with no hope of retreat or reinforcement. General Varus, realizing the extent of his failure, committed suicide, and over 20,000 Roman soldiers perished in the battle. The loss of 3 legions was a catastrophe for Rome. The legions were completely wiped out, and the eagles of the Roman army, symbols of Roman pride and strength, were lost to the Germans. This defeat in Teutoburg Forest marked a turning point in Roman ambitions in Germania. The Rhine River, once a simple border, now became the permanent frontier of the Roman Empire. Chapter 5: Roman Retaliation and the Limits of Imperial Power. In the wake of the devastating defeat at Teutoburg Forest, Rome was thrown into a state of shock. Emperor Augustus, deeply disturbed by the loss, immediately sought to avenge the disaster. He sent Germanicus, his stepson, to lead a series of punitive campaigns against the Germanic tribes. Germanicus, a brilliant and charismatic general, led several expeditions into Germania between 14 and 16 CE, seeking to recover the Roman standards and punish the tribes responsible for the defeat. While Germanicus achieved some successes, including the recapture of Roman standards and several victories over Germanic forces, the Romans were unable to fully crush the Germanic resistance. The difficult terrain, combined with the guerrilla tactics of the Germanic warriors, made it impossible for the Romans to secure lasting control over the region. Even as Roman victories mounted, the Germanic tribes remained united in their resistance. By 17 CE, Roman efforts to conquer Germania were deemed too costly. The logistical challenges, the relentless resistance from the Germanic tribes, and the high cost of war led Emperor Tiberius to abandon the idea of further conquest. The Romans had failed to subdue Germania, and the Rhine River was solidified as the natural boundary of the Roman Empire. Chapter 6: The Legacy of the War. The war between Rome and the Germanic tribes would have lasting consequences for both the Roman Empire and the tribes themselves. For the Romans, the defeat at Teutoburg Forest represented the limits of Roman power. Rome, which had conquered vast empires and subjugated countless peoples, could not bring the wild lands of Germania under its control. The defeat exposed the vulnerability of the Roman military, which had relied heavily on its organizational superiority but struggled to adapt to the unfamiliar and unpredictable tactics of the Germanic tribes. For the Germanic tribes, the victory at Teutoburg Forest was a symbol of their resistance and resilience. Arminius became a hero, celebrated as the leader who had driven back the might of Rome. Though his leadership was short-lived and the Germanic tribes would eventually fall into internal conflict, the memory of their victory over Rome would inspire future generations of Germans to resist foreign domination. The war with Germania, and the failure to conquer the region, marked the end of Rome's ambitions in northern Europe. The Rhine became a permanent frontier, and Roman efforts to expand beyond it ceased. The Germanic tribes, though often divided, had successfully defended their homeland against an empire that had conquered much of the known world. Their victory would play a key role in the eventual decline of the Western Roman Empire, as many of the tribes that had fought against Rome would go on to play a significant role in the empire's collapse in the 5th century CE. The story of the Roman-Germanic War was one of resistance, resilience, and the limitations of imperial power. The defeat in Germania was a sobering reminder that no empire, no matter how vast or powerful, can conquer every land. And for the Germanic tribes, it was a victory that would echo throughout history as a testament to their unyielding spirit and their determination to preserve their way of life.